subconsciously. We don't sit here and think the thoughts that are coming in on those words. We just get it. It's like just automatic. And so when you're learning other languages, it can be difficult because you can't make your brain think any faster. And if you're trying to translate in your head, you'll always be behind. But at some point, it's just funny. It's like walking. If you don't think, okay, I need to put my right foot forward and my left foot forward. And if you do that, you're going to trip and fall. You just have to let your body do it. It eventually comes, but then it will let you down at the wrong moment. Yeah. I was helping a family that wanted to adopt three Brazilian kids that were up for adoption. And so they finally went to court the last day, and I had known them for a long time from Willowbrook Church, and so I was just a representative, like a witness to say they're good people, they have good income, I've known them a long time and all that. So we go in, and the judge takes me aside, and he says, "Can you sign this?" He says, "The translator didn't show up," and he said, "Your Portuguese is perfectly fine." And I thought, okay, but I don't know all the legal terms and stuff. He says, "Oh, no, we'll keep it simple." So I signed it, and in the middle it was going back and forth, and all of a sudden I'm talking to the judge in English and then talking to the Americans in Portuguese. And he looked at me real funny, and I was like, okay, I got that wrong, I'm sorry. But your subconscious brain sometimes goes where you don't want it to go. Anyway, we're going to finish the afterlife study tonight. And so I'm just going to do a summary kind of what we've gone through, answer questions if you have any. And I'm presenting, in some cases, 2 or 3 different opinions from theologians, and I'm not talking wild, liberal, way out there theologians. I'm talking very solid theologians that would be acceptable, that they could teach at one of our Baptist seminaries. If they came and wanted to teach, they would be accepted. They may not be Baptist, they may not align perfectly with us, but they could come and teach a course, or they could come and teach in chapel. That kind of level that we would be comfortable with them. But our human lives, we pass through 6 events or stages. We have life, and whether that begins, whether you want to go back to birth or conception, we're alive. And then we die, and there's death. And then there's life after death. But that first life after death is temporary. It's the intermediate state that we've talked about. And then after that, there's 2 other things that happen to us. There's the resurrection and the judgment. And those apparently take place very close together. They just seem to, we don't know, but it appears in the Bible. There's the resurrection, then there's the immediate judgment. How God is going to individually judge billions of people, only God knows, but He's going to do that. And it may be that we'll all be on, or those who are before the great throne judgment will be before Him all at once. And He can hear everybody praying. He can certainly hear everybody and communicate with everybody at the same time. But there's the resurrection, then there's the great throne judgment and the judgment seat of Christ, which are 2 different judgments, which may take place at different times, but everyone goes through a judgment. And every one of us is judged according to our works. And you say, "Pastor, I thought we were saved by faith." But this is not a judgment of salvation in either case. As believers, we're already right with God, justified through Christ, but we're judged according to our works. And it apparently has to do with our rewards in heaven. And also, just to disclose to everybody, be transparent. This is what Jesus did in this person's life. This is how they were transformed over time and how they lived. And I don't know that all of it is negative. Obviously, none of us wants our dirty laundry exposed. But I think there's also a part where we get to see the work of Jesus in our lives and in other people's lives as well. And then for the throne judgment, it's to explain to those who are lost and have rejected Christ, the unbelievers, that this is why you're being punished. And this is God's justice, and so they can know that, so they can be informed of that. And then finally is the final state, which is what we call eternity. And that's a little different, I think, than we grew up thinking. We kind of think we're going to go to heaven and we're just going to be in that one place for all of eternity. But the Bible speaks of a different destination after we get our resurrection bodies. And that different place is where New Jerusalem comes down. There's a new heavens and earth. And that phrase in Hebrew and Greek would mean a new universe. I personally think it's a renovation of the original universe. There's scriptures that seem to want to say it's the old one passes completely away and we get a new one. The idea of passed away, the old one's dead, it's got to be revived. Different theologians go different ways with that. But what we do know is there's a new heavens and a new earth. And the New Jerusalem comes down, and where is God? Well, He's everywhere, obviously, but where is His special presence where we meet with Him? It's in that place that He has brought down from heaven, the gigantic New Jerusalem. So that's kind of the overview, but let me go through some of the points, and we'll look at them. As far as life goes, we do not have eternal souls in the same way that God is eternal. Because God had no beginning, and we all had a beginning. And we're going to have an earthly end, and whether or not the eternal life, whether it's in heaven or hell, is granted by God originally to Adam or not, I tend to lean toward the idea that we have conditional eternal life. Why would God put an angel up and make sure Adam and Eve didn't go back in the garden and eat the fruit if they already had eternal life? Because He said, lest they eat the fruit and live forever in this state of sin and loss that they're in. And so God wanted them not to eat the fruit of the tree of life. Why would He prevent that if they already had eternal life? That didn't do anything for them. So there seems to be in the Bible, and it says death came through Adam. So he was alive, but death came through Adam. So there seems to be this idea that God's plan and intention from the beginning was that we would have eternal life and be with Him forever. That's His plan. But we did not get that through Adam. And so there is this death that we go through, and then there's this resurrection into eternal life. Does that make sense? Other scholars would say no. When God breathed into Adam, he became a living soul, and they would say that spirit or soul was intended by God from that moment forward to live eternally. And that may be true, but there are 2 or 3 places in the Bible that make me think it's very possible, and I kind of lean toward it right now, that He breathed the earthly life into Adam, and had Adam not taken the fruit, Adam and Eve would have taken the tree of life and would have lived. So it's conditional immortality, conditional on whether we obey God or not. And they didn't obey God. So He has now given us another chance for eternal life. Jesus says, I have life in me, and I give it to those, right? The Father has life in Himself, I have life in me, and I give it to those who are with me. And so this idea that eternal life is given by Jesus. And that may sound kind of strange to some of you. You may have never thought it that way. Either one of those could be right in the Bible. I'm not saying I'm right. I could easily be wrong. But my study of this has made me think that's the way we go. So we're going to move from... The one thing that we can't do is we can't